good evening to everybody. Bruce here. So we got through our 3-day weekend, and just a shout out to all of the veterans and all those that have given up so much so that we have our freedoms. Never like to forget that it was Memorial Day. Okay, so let's jump into CONY and coin. Pretty good day. Coin was up 3.09, and the charts are clearly pointing up for coin. So I think BTC is consolidating, looking like it wants to break out. Let's see. So at 245, we're up 3.09, and we were up 3.17. So who says we can't keep up? I think at moderate gains we certainly can. And our strikes, although they're within reach, they're out there a little ways. 250, 250, 250, that's a little close for 10,000 of them. And we added. So what caused the addition of trades today was this big run up here in shares outstanding. I mean, 1,075,000 shares were added. Oh, it looks like I didn't update those, but I did on holdings. So there's just a couple of places, and I don't refer the cells. I probably could do that. All right, so let's look. This is our trade sheet. So 3 trades, you almost always, especially when they have the same quantity. So what happens is you add a synthetic, right? They get all that money, and that's a lot of money. I think it was 15 million that showed up in my holding. So they went out and bought 875 contracts to add to the synthetic, which is out to July 19th at the 230 strike price, right? Oh, interesting. Yeah, it was 230. And so I'll go over those, and then we also did same quantity of just selling short the weekly calls. I call them naked calls because that's what they really are, even though a lot of people refer to them as covered calls. Technically, they're not covered because we don't own the underlying, but people say they call them a covered because they offset this bullishness, right? So they're bullish, but they have a limit of being bullish. They want it to go up, but they want it to go up less than where these targeted strike prices are, which are typically 5 to 15%. But these fund managers get greedy, and they only go 5, and sometimes that comes back to bite them. Okay, so enough of showing you the sheet. Let's see what it is in action. So this is the 875. They only got $1.88, but to give them some credit, they went out to 257. So from 245 now with 3 more trading days, it's 5.10. Now when these were done, they're basing on the old numbers. So we're much closer to the 250 now, right? So the way I set up the spreadsheet is it's out of the money as of the writing. So when we go over to the weeklies, I can show you how far they are based on the closing price, right? But these are using the closing price when they were written, right? So that 5 to 15% is more consistently 5%. I'd like to see them get out further, especially if the charts are showing a bullishness. Now, in some fairness to them, they're always trying to reach that yield target, right? CONY has a yield target, Misty has a yield target, and they're usually up in the 70, 80, 100%, right, return. So they're trying to get the most they can, but sacrificing, sometimes having a losing and wiping everything out, right? So I don't buy into that strategy quite as much. And I would also like to see them skew them, right? I would like to see them vary the strike prices. And in some fairness, they did here. This was decent, even though it's only 250 apart, right? All right, and at least they were smart enough with 3 trading days to go when they wrote this, 3.5, I think it was the middle of the day, because it closed up around $3. All right. So let's go look at the synthetics, which are our 230s. Okay. So this was the one we did prior, right? And when you're above the 1540, right, you're getting calls that are substantially higher because they passed up the 230 and the puts are worth less. So we're gaining money down here, but we're losing money when we write one, right? It's the kind of the opposite. So it costs us 2.7 million to put this on, but we only get 1.7 selling the put because we're ahead of the game, right? We're up at whoops, let me fix this one. We're at 245. Whoops, one more space, 28. Okay, we're at 245 and the strike's 230. So it's more, it's going to be a minimum of 15. If it stays here, this is going to be 0 and this is going to be 15 at expiration, right? So we're automatically, right now we got a 17 spread, okay? But if all we did was just stay right here, we would only have a 15. But look at that, we got a 41.6 million profit. So that part is really good as we move up our synthetic. But again, it's paper money, right? So we want to convert that. And I think they will. I think they'll roll the 1540 maybe to a 16 or something as we get closer to declaration for the purpose of having more cash in the fund so they can pay out money. Right now, they could hardly pay any money out technically, right? And I think you guys know that. My disappointment last week was off the charts with the fund managers. Just, they could have bought that back at 3, and we gave back 6.2 of the 6.9. Instead of they waited till the end of the day and they bought it for 11, and it just cost us a fortune. So, and that's your money and my money and payout, right? If they execute better. All right, enough of that. Let's go look at the weekly. Whoops, right after I said I put everything there, I did not put everything there, right? So this is a 257. Not that this matters too much for seeing it here, but hey, when that happens, that's a 250. And that's a 270, 257.5. Okay, so you see where the percentages are here, right? Okay, so we're 5.10 out, a little over 5% out of the money of this. These are getting close, right? With 3 trading days, this one in particular, right? Luckily, they're not quite 50-50, but it's a big number, 10,000, 13,000, right? And by the way, these are, sometimes I see this and I update it, but obviously it doesn't affect any real numbers, just if somebody's reading it literally, right? Oops, I know what happened to that. Okay, so, and to update you, okay, these are updated. We're both up, a little bit sideways here with implied volatility. So we're behind because we're close to those strike prices. So we have 6.6 million to win this week, and right now it would cost us a minus 4.3. So it would cost us almost 11 million, right? 10.9, and I think it might go over to 11, which we're minus 64%. What we want to do is we want to be capturing the amount. So, just so you know, right? So at the end of the day, if we close 250 or below, we win all this 6.6 million. Don't worry about how it's priced today. It's easy to predict, right? If this is 252, then we're going to lose this one. But I'd have to see again how much we got for it. We're only going to lose part of what we gave. I don't think we're going to lose all of it. And then this one's smaller, right? because only 875 contracts. So let's go over and look at holdings. And this really spells it out. I make sure I get everything dialed in. So here's the 1,075,000 shares, right? From 22,950 all the way up to 24,025,000 shares. So 4.68. By the way, Misty also added, you know, its percentage of shares are probably similar. I think it was like 400,000. I didn't do the math, but my formulas do the math. So we closed at 24.41. Whoops, is that the right price? Yeah, May 28. Yep. And it's the 28 number. Okay. So let's go back to holdings. And that's what it's saying fair value is, right? You add up all of the share total by all of these assets. Look at this, 41.6 million. Congrats, CONY. You're building up because you're up at 245, right? These 230s are making money. Now, paper gain, right? It's a real gain. It just, we haven't pulled the plug on it, right? We haven't sold it to actually have the cash. So that's my distinguish between a paper gain and an actualized gain. Here's where we get hurt a little bit. Short term, right? So how do these work? Well, you got a 250 strike. You're currently at 245, right? Well, when we sold that guy, let's go back and look at our May tab on the 250. We got $3.25. So technically, we don't give the 3.2 million back until we hit 253.25. Then we're break even. We give them back exactly what they gave us, right? So if we get to 251, we give, you know, 1 million of the 3 million back and we get to keep 2. But you'll see when I get to payments, I've already dialed in. All of these numbers include everything we've been paid, and we really need it, right? Because CONY's sitting here begging for 75 cents to $1. Now, it's amazing that people buy it. I don't fault you for buying it because I'm positive on CONY and CONY is going to do well. But I shifted some of my CONY into Misty because I think Misty's going to have a better payout this time than CONY. And then I'll shift back. But people that don't want a short-term gain on their stock, you know, it's bad enough you get this as ordinary income and they're not qualified dividends. But that's a whole nother tax discussion, right? But in my case, I'm not worried about the short-term or long-term capital gains, which would be short time here, short-term for me. So, you know, we really don't want to lose this and then turn this number negative and this number negative, right? Now, at 41 million, we almost have enough to take this down to 18. It's not enough to turn it positive, but it could be if we keep going. But if we keep going much, we're going to hurt this, right? So it's so the good news is we grew our paper profit. I'll come back to this at the very end. So that's our weeklies, our holdings. All right. So let's go through these. So we sold this for 3 1/4. Well, the reason it's 535 is nothing more than time premium, right? If we finish at 245, which is where we are today, this is 0, right? At 249.99, technically at 250, this is 0. But we'd probably have to pay 3, 4, 5 cents, right, into the close to buy it back. But that's nothing, right? It's literally nothing, right? We're going to buy it back for, you know, 2,000, and we got to keep 3,248,000. But as it stands, because of the time premium, we're considered losing, right? It cost us $5 million to buy it back at this real closing price. But if it stays at 245 tomorrow, then this goes down, right? And then 245 the next day, this goes down. And then on Friday, it goes to 0. So FYI. So overall, it depends. You know, nobody could call that. This thing could go to 255 tomorrow and stay there for the rest of the week. It also could just, you know, bounce back and forth. So I'm hoping for CONY. I still own some of my shares in CONY. All right. So that's the scenario here. This is a nice build, right? 18 million, 18.5, 30, 41. Once we got into this 230 strike price, we've been doing really, really good. And remember, we rolled from a 220 strike price previously, right? Because we needed some of that money, right, to buy stuff back. So this is where we are. What else in holdings? I told you about fair value. I showed you this. These don't mean a lot, but there was a lot of cash, right? We're sitting right now at 28 million in our cash. So our cash went up. Those are the fields that I didn't fill in over on the May when you scrolled over, but I always do them here. So it's looking pretty good. I'm a little bit nervous that we're close. Okay. Other than that, CONY's pushing forward. So here's good news, bad news, right? Told you about the strike. At these levels, I mean, remember, these funds want to keep their investors. They don't want to, they're never going to not pay anything, right? So they're going to pay something. It's just a real question mark. They're going to see that 41 million if it stays there or if it grows. So I'm figuring the very worst thing that could happen to CONY is we lose these weeklies and it runs up to 250, right? 255, and we lose the 250 and we lose the 252 and we make a little bit of money at smaller on contracts on the 257. And now all of a sudden we got a loss here and we got a loss here, right? So they paid us, what, 228 last month. And we earned $1.76. So they used a little bit of this money, right? So that left a couple bucks there. But they would have no reserve left in the fund at the carry forward of 17 million. So if they paid that $2, and these are both losses, so that's why I don't see them paying $2. I don't see them paying $1.50 unless something changes, right? Now the good news, remember I used the word yin and yang. Sometimes when you win on one, you lose on the other, or you win on that one, you lose on. And what I mean by other is synthetic versus short call. They like these weeklies to win and put it here so they can just use it to pay you. And this is gravy if they get. And we always want negative numbers, right? Negative numbers are meaning there's money to pay out. So this is close, right? The share count went way up, right? So this would have been, 6-7 cents or something, but instead it's barely 3 because the share count, we have to spread it over more people. And I suspect more people are going to continue to buy in because historically 24 is, I think it's been as low as 17 and as high as 30. It's not far from its inception of 20. And it's a good fund. I mean, I'm positive, I'm bullish on Coinbase. I could see 300 or 350 coming on Coinbase if BTC breaks out and runs to the 90s, maybe 100, right? Coinbase could be well over 350. So, but if that all happens in 2 weeks, we're going to get killed on our weeklies and we're going to make a fortune in our synthetics. There's the yin and yang. So I think with that 40, if we ran to 252 this week and we got hurt on these, right? So we lost the 7 million, right? So that makes this a loser. But they probably, in order to buy that back, will roll this guy. They'll roll this 41 million, and all of a sudden this will drop down to, a 50-cent loss or something, right? Yeah, because it would be like, say, 15 million, 14 million. And so 14 to 24, right? That's 55. So it's about 55 cents. So we would only have a 55-cent loss, and they go, okay, well, we got a couple extra bucks. We're going to pay you $1. So I'm just giving you some what ifs, some possibilities, and really detail that I don't think many other people can take the time or have the knowledge and the skill to do what I'm doing. So I hope you appreciate it. I know my subscribers are pretty loyal. I love all your comments. And by the way, did you guys see what I put out? What I really wanted to do was reach out of my subscriber base, outside it, and say, hey, this is what's possible, right? These are real numbers. These funds work. You know, and I got a lot of people that came in. I probably got 35 subscribers. I mean, it's really helping me, right? And obviously, I only showed the two biggest funds, right, that contribute. But you guys know I'm in GDXY. I'm a huge proponent of where it's going. I love YBit also, right? I own some BitO, which was the very first crypto thing I bought that's tied directly to crypto. And then I said, oh, the dividend's just gravy. And then when I saw YBit and it's based on BitO, I said, man, I love the YieldMax model. I love their synthetics, and I really understand all that, and I know. And I'm telling you, these are things that only institutional multi-millionaires had access to these kinds of things. Now, does that mean you can't lose your shirt? Absolutely. If the NASDAQ, I look at NVIDIA, and everybody's so broke. I don't own NVIDIA, and I'm not saying don't own it. I'm just saying that thing has ran so hard, so high. If we get a pullback of 20% in the NASDAQ and in the markets, that thing's probably going to go down 25%. And it's just scary when it's nosebleed, because, it's going to take a while, but the competitors are coming there. And I'm not knocking NVIDIA. You own it, keep owning it, do what you want. I just am trying to look down the road 3 months, 6 months, and I think things like, and I noticed Defiance put out something called, who gave me that? One of my subscribers, and Charles tipped me to that. URAX, URAX. I already own URA and URNM, which are two ETFs for a basket of stocks, and they pay once a year, a buck, or it varies. So they don't have any kind of yield, and they're not, and so Defiance came out with the 2 times. I haven't bought any Defiance. I did a video one time on YieldMax, and somebody said YieldMax is okay, but Defiance is a scam. Well, I don't think they're a scam, but they're covered call oriented. So anyway, I'm throwing out a lot of data that's not CONY. But I like to keep you guys aware. I'll do Misty in a little while. I got YBit to do, and I got GDXY to do for you guys. So anyway, that's it. I'll let you go. Again, this is Bruce signing out. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. It's for fun and entertainment. Hope you were entertained. All right. Have a good rest of your week. Bye. Good night.